Sunday mornings were quiet, almost too quiet, in my small apartment. The faint hum of the ceiling fan filled the silence as sunlight streamed through the half-open blinds. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone, its black screen reflecting the weariness on my face. It had been over a year since Aliyah and I broke up, but her presence still clung to me like a shadow. No matter how much I tried to convince myself otherwise, I missed her. I missed the way she laughed at my terrible jokes, how her perfume lingered on my shirt after she hugged me, how her hand always fit perfectly into mine as if it belonged there. I told myself I had moved on. Everyone told me I should. But the truth was simple and cruel. I hadn't. That morning, for reasons I couldn't explain, I opened her contact in my phone. My thumb hovered over the screen, my heart pounding. There was a time I could call her anytime, about anything, a funny movie, a bad day, just to hear her voice. Now, even sending a text felt like climbing a mountain barefoot. I thought of our last fight. The way she walked out, tears streaking her face, saying we were just too different. The words had stung then, and they still did now. But what if things were different now? What if she'd missed me, too? Maybe this was my chance to find out. I typed out a simple message.
Hey.
Would you like to have dinner with me this Sunday? No pressure. Just catch up. For a long moment, I couldn't bring myself to hit send. My mind flooded with doubts. What if she said no? Or worse, what if she didn't reply at all? Then, before I could change my mind, I pressed send. The 3 blinking dots appeared almost instantly. Then they vanished. My chest tightened as minutes crawled by. Every vibration of my phone sent my heart into overdrive, only to find some useless notification or a spam email. Finally, nearly an hour later, her reply came.
Sure.
Let's meet at 7. Just like that, hope came rushing back into me, a dangerous, fragile kind of hope, but hope nonetheless. The rest of the day passed in a haze. I found myself opening old photos of us on my phone, smiling at memories that felt like a lifetime ago. That night, I hardly slept. When Sunday finally came, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, running a comb through my hair for the 5th time, straightening my collar. Tonight, I whispered to my reflection, my own voice unsure but determined. Maybe we start over. With a deep breath, I picked up my keys, slipped on my jacket, and stepped into the fading light of the evening, my heart carrying both a question and a quiet, aching hope. The restaurant was warm and softly lit, its amber glow washing over polished wood tables and flickering candles. I arrived a little early, choosing a quiet corner where the noise of clinking cutlery and laughter wouldn't drown us out. My fingers traced the edge of the menu absent-mindedly as I kept glancing toward the entrance. Then she walked in. Aliyah. For a second, I forgot to breathe. She looked different, yet achingly familiar. Her hair, longer now, framed her face in loose waves. The burgundy dress she wore hugged her in all the right ways, understated yet elegant, just like her. But it wasn't her appearance that struck me most. It was her composure, the cool confidence in her step. When our eyes met, she smiled faintly. I stood, a little too quickly, knocking my chair back with a scrape. You look beautiful, I blurted, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. She thanked me politely as I pulled out her chair. For the first few minutes, our conversation hovered on safe ground. We talked about work, she'd switched to a new company, and her family. I told her about a project I'd been working on and how my sister's wedding had kept me busy last summer. But soon, the small talk gave way to something more natural. She laughed at one of my clumsy stories, and it was like sunlight breaking through clouds. That laugh. It unlocked something in me I thought I'd lost. We reminisced about our road trips, the late-night coffee runs, the time we got caught in the rain and danced anyway. For a moment, it felt like no time had passed at all. Yet even as we traded memories and soft smiles, I couldn't shake the subtle signs. Her gaze kept flicking toward her phone, lying face down on the table. Her fingers fidgeted with the stem of her wine glass whenever the silence stretched too long. Still, I pressed on, daring to believe. You know, I said, trying to sound casual though my heart raced, I've missed this. I've missed this. Her eyes widened slightly, then softened. She set her glass down and folded her hands in her lap. I still think about you, I added, my voice lower now, almost a confession. Every single day. She didn't speak immediately. Instead, she looked down at her hands, her expression unreadable. When she finally raised her eyes, there was a hint of sadness there, something I couldn't quite name. You know we broke up for a reason, she said softly, almost reluctantly. I swallowed hard, feeling the sting behind her words. But I wasn't ready to let go, not yet. Maybe we can fix it, I murmured, meeting her gaze. We were good together, weren't we? She sighed and turned her head slightly, as though the answer was written somewhere on the restaurant wall. I'm not sure, she whispered. And, with that quiet uncertainty hanging between us, the evening's fragile hope began to tremble, but not yet break. Her whispered words, I'm not sure, echoed in my chest like a slow, dull ache. I tried to smile, though it felt forced. That's okay, I said quietly. You don't have to be sure. Not yet. But even as I spoke, I noticed how her shoulders stiffened, how her hands twisted in her lap. Something unspoken lingered in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. I leaned forward, searching her face for a clue. Aaliyah, I began carefully. Is there someone else? The question hung there, sharp and fragile. Her eyes widened for a moment before she looked away. Her fingers tightened around the napkin until it crumpled in her hands. I waited. Finally, after what felt like forever, she nodded, almost imperceptibly. Yes, she murmured, her voice barely audible. There is. The word struck like a punch to the gut. My stomach sank as if the floor had opened beneath me. I sat back, stunned, my mind scrambling to make sense of it. How long? I asked. My throat felt dry, the words coming out cracked and uneven. She hesitated, then said, After we broke up. A few months later. It just happened. I stared at her, my pulse thudding in my ears. Flashes of the nights I'd lain awake missing her, believing she was alone too, hit me like waves. All those months I'd clung to the idea of us, while she'd already found someone else. I let out a bitter laugh and shook my head. Did you ever love me? I asked, the question heavier than I meant it to be. She finally looked at me then, her eyes shimmering. Of course I did, she said firmly. I did. But people change. Feelings change. Her words were gentle, but they sliced through me all the same. A waiter arrived just then with dessert, 2 plates of delicate chocolate mousse. Neither of us touched them. I stared down in my hands, willing myself to say something, anything. But the words wouldn't come. I didn't mean to hurt you, she offered quietly, as though that could soften the blow. I nodded faintly, though my chest felt hollow. Yeah, I muttered. You did anyway. Silence settled between us, thicker than ever. I excused myself to the restroom, needing to breathe. Under the harsh bathroom lights, I gripped the sink and stared at my reflection. My eyes looked different somehow, older, sadder. I splashed cold water on my face and closed my eyes. When I opened them, I whispered to myself, It's over. She's gone. The truth of it stung, but it was undeniable. I returned to the table with a faint, practiced smile, feeling the weight of goodbye already pressing on my heart. And though the night wasn't over yet, I knew the hope I'd carried here tonight was already slipping quietly away. I slid back into my chair, my practiced smile hiding the storm inside. Aaliyah looked up at me with a softness I couldn't quite read. Pity, maybe, or something even sadder. Neither of us reached for the dessert. The mousse sat there untouched, its delicate sweetness mocking the bitterness between us. I cleared my throat, breaking the silence. I'll take care of the bill, I said simply. She nodded, her hands retreating to her lap again. When the waiter came by, I handed over my card, forcing a polite smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. Aaliyah murmured a quiet thank you, but it sounded more like an apology. We stepped outside into the cool night air. The city buzzed faintly around us, cars passing, faint laughter from a distant corner, neon lights blinking without care for hearts breaking quietly beneath them. I offered to call her a cab, and she accepted. As we stood on the curb, waiting for it to arrive, the silence felt less heavy now, more final. When the car pulled up, she turned to me. For the first time that night, she smiled, faint but genuine. "Take care of yourself," she said. I nodded. "You too." Then she was gone. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the taillights as they disappeared into the night. My chest ached, but somewhere deep down, a strange relief began to bloom. It hurt. Of course it did. But maybe it was time to stop clinging to something that had already slipped away. The walk home felt longer, quieter. The streets, lined with yellow streetlights, seemed almost unfamiliar, as if everything had shifted somehow. When I reached my apartment, I dropped my keys on the counter and stepped out onto the balcony. The night sky stretched above me, vast and indifferent, sprinkled with stars. I leaned on the railing and let the cool breeze wash over me. Yes, she was gone. And yes, it hurt. But maybe that was the point. Maybe some people come into your life not to stay, but to teach you what love feels like and what it feels like to lose it. Maybe they teach you how strong you can be when the world feels like it's falling apart. I took out my phone and scrolled through her contact one last time. Then, with a quiet exhale, I deleted it. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my window. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the weight of her absence quite as heavily. I got dressed, stepped outside, and let the warm light touch my face. As I walked down the street, I whispered to myself, not a promise, but a quiet truth. I'll be okay. And someday, I'll love again. And with each step, I felt a little lighter.